Okay, now I'm live. Again, thank you very much. Got my laptop running now. No longer crashed. Let's see here. Everything look right. Everything looks great. Yeah, I was just explaining. I used to have a radio show with the exact same name in Wisconsin, co-host and stuff. I'm the same guy. And we used to just talk about current events, politics. We were supposed to be more of a local Wisconsin show, but we did go national. And we talked about the 2000 election when it was happening. So we were part of the 2000 election coverage, Wisconsin radio, and so forth. Yeah, that was great. So now all I have is the internet. Let me see if I can angle this better. I don't like the look of this. There we go. So I was just going to talk about a few different current events and stuff going on. And I guess where all that stuff falls short from being interesting, I could talk about my personal matters that have political things involved. I had my aunt posting me on Facebook. She posted like a passage from Mein Kampf. And of course, anything fascist or neo-fascist catches my attention right away. And she has to be doing it probably because, I hope at least, she emphasizes with my point, which is that I don't like the neo-fascist elements of society or people taking opinions that have that for their improper appeals to authority, where instead of being thorough and searching on a matter and keeping a down-to-earth perspective, they're appealing to authority, like doctors, nurses, lawyers, judges, you know. And that has, as I've explained to people before, that tends to have a Catholic bias to it, rather than the Reformed perspective. In the Reformed hermeneutic, okay, Reformed theology is actually hermeneutic, like my friend explained on my channel, where we are placing the scriptures as ultimate authority, as opposed to making the authority of men as such. So the Catholic bias in that has to do with that, where people are making improper appeals to authority. And this, the longer I would talk about this with people, we'd eventually get to talking about the Black Lives Matter and the defund the police movement, which I've said before lately in my channel. I tend to take a moderate position because I have a heart for the oppressed, and I want to see equality for all. But I can't really associate with violent protests. I have a heart for, like I said, oppressed people. I don't have a very authoritarian outlook with police are always right. I've always been willing to acknowledge that police and authorities could make mistakes or be wrong, and that's a sensible position, rather than being an extremist, on things, and trying to say that those in authority are always right, they always make correct decisions. And so if you're charged with a criminal matter, obviously you did something wrong, right? Even before you ever go to trial, people are already judging you. That's what the climate used to sound like, in our nation. So this quote, and she quotes him on Facebook, and the quote says, "The best way to take control over a people and control them utterly is to take a little of their freedom at a time, to erode rights by 1,000 tiny and almost imperceptible reductions. In this way, the people will not see those rights and freedoms being removed until past the point at which these changes cannot be reversed. In other words, it's the frog boiling in hot water. You'll never see it coming because they'll just slowly increase the heat. You're never going to notice the imperceptible changes in the heat as the frog being boiled in hot water." So I basically replied and said that's an unacceptable position. Obviously, if someone is on board with him, that's an unacceptable position. Sick, wrong, and dehumanizing, and degrading. I know without looking that fascism and the Nazi Party has atheist and agnostic presuppositions. It's not really a Christian outlook. it's severely warped. I said the taint of these views creep into conversations these days as neo-fascist elements typically not noticed, usually containing for one inappropriate appeals to authority, but a certain amount of strange xenophobia as well. It's like when the pandemic started back in March, April, I was trying to take a duffel bag into a grocery store in California, and they didn't want me taking a duffel bag into the grocery store, even though people realize probably such a surface cannot hold coronavirus in a way that it can be passed along. Probably not. I'm not a doctor. This is not doctor's advice. Likely the bag didn't have coronavirus on it. Set it outside, and I just set it outside and came back out for it. But that's a little bit of xenophobia there already. The left could ride all this to the bank in their position with that kind of xenophobia and appeals to authority, where the president is also the chief of medicine for the country. It's like, what is Trump supposed to do? He's not a doctor anyway. Seriously, want to blame Trump for everything that happened under his administration? Yeah. We had a good economy going. I have a realistic outlook. To me, like, I'll watch the whole thing go down. I'll wonder during the election and after. Is this? I don't want to prophesy doom here, but I'm sure a lot of people are aggravated with things, and you have right. I'm aggravated with things. I don't think anything is that perfect or good right now. There's a huge number of problems resulting from the many things that have gone on. It's aggravating. Do I blame Trump for everything? No. I mean, the coronavirus came from China. It didn't come from the Trump administration. Okay, it came from China. And then it went to San Francisco. Trump's not the mayor of San Francisco. San Francisco has a bunch of problems. But like I said before, they're part of America too, so they can get with it. Anyway, let's move on here. Speaking of fascism, I'm always looking for examples of that kind of stuff going on, of the neo-fascist thought. Here, I have this from the Daily Skim. So, this is from the Daily Skim on what day was this? Let's see. Today, 3 a.m., 11 hours ago. Who's in the hot seat? Senator Tom Cotton from Arkansas, Republican. He said the founding fathers considered slavery a necessary evil. The comments in an interview with the Arkansas Democrat Gazette came after the intro legislation to try to block federal funds from schools teaching the 1619 Project. It's an initiative launched by Pulitzer Prize-winning New York Times journalist Nicole Hannah-Jones that aims to reframe American history, starting with the year 1619, when the first slave ship arrived on American shores. I'll give you my analysis here. They're trying to say his viewpoint is not acceptable. He's taking a zero tolerance policy to conservatism, or taking a more right stance on it and a reasonable view that they had that going on, and it just had to be that way. Well, what are you going to do? They needed constitutional revision, so it was part of cultural society. And if you look at the Bible, you'll realize this could be a matter of your religious worldview, or something where you see it in a way where God, to a certain extent, would say to a certain extent, as long as you're obeying me, this kind of thing. Now, I'm not in favor, obviously, of having that again. That's stupid. I wanted equality, like I said. That's stupid. So, reminds me of the slavery arguments I had on my other channel. Anyway, all I can say is that the neo-fascist, angle here might be missed, but the neo-fascist taint, or the neo-fascist element here might be missed by a lot of people. because you're being brainwashed to think that certain views can never be said, and we're xenophobic about it. We don't want the view ever like said in any platform, and they try and put the guy in the hot seat just for taking a moderate stance and saying they had. It's like saying they had that. Okay, so they had to live with it until they got rid of it. Okay, that's historically true. The 1619 project, I didn't get to look at. I didn't get to look at the whole thing. Yeah, it looks interesting. It's not. It doesn't look much different from how I was taught in grade school. We were taught slavery was bad and stuff. We were taught that. We were taught slavery was bad. It's not hard to say. Okay. What's this about the Major League Baseball crisis here? Okay, the Miami Marlins, based in one of the hotspots of the pandemic, announced at least 11 players and 2 coaches tested positive for COVID-19. But despite knowing about the outbreak, they went ahead with Sunday's game against the Philadelphia Phillies. What are you going to do? Huh? What are you going to do? What are you supposed to do? Your team breaks up with the COVID, and then suddenly you have to play ball anyway. Okay, looks like the league banned spitting. The league banned spitting and coming within 6 feet of an umpire or another player during an argument. But there's no rule book on how to handle an outbreak like this. This is okay coming from me. Likely this is some locker room conduct. They're sharing showers and having to whip each other with towels and stuff. Hopefully the team wasn't being gay or something. Like, that's what comes to mind. Like, okay, are they kissing or participating in you know what I mean? Like, are they participating in like gay stuff? I hope not. Hope not. Yeah, they kill me. I don't want to get. Okay, yeah. By all means, like, chime in here. I don't care. Whatever. You'd wonder, you kind of wonder. Maybe they're sharing a beer. Well, okay, you guys kind of like waterfall. You take the container, you waterfall it down their throat, so you're not sharing the rim. That would be one strategy to avoid passing along COVID or contracting it, I guess. Okay, let me check the other. Let's see what other. I want to talk about. There's something about Trump in the schools. Let's see. This is also from the Daily Skim, who became my go-to all of a sudden for interesting talk. Okay, from July 21st. The Trump administration is pressuring governors to find a way to make in-person classes happen. And we're talking about school, okay? And has threatened to cut funding from schools that don't make in-person classes happen. The American Academy of Pediatrics last month urged opening up schools. That's interesting, and pointing to the developmental, social, and mental health benefits of in-person schooling. Gotcha, okay. Some research suggests that remote learning can also hold back minority children. Health and